Today's episode is brought to you by the Garden of Greatness, Lessons for Growing in Life, Career, and Wealth. In this book, you're going to find insights, opportunities, and wisdom that can be found in your own backyard. Pre-order goes live October 21st, and you can grab your copy on chaseinspires.com/Garden of Greatness. Once again, that's chaseinspires.com/Garden of Greatness.
When we connect with Jesus, we find our place in history. What will be history, so to speak.
Right. We're writing it, right? It's his story, history, his story.
And yes, go 1, 2, 3. I got to be a beast and be like 1, 2, 3. I'm hot, watch me unleash and it go 1, 2, 3. When you know that you the best out, chest out. I'm saying I got now, forget the rest now. 1, 2, 3. I got to be a beast and be like 1, 2, 3. I'm hot, watch me unleash and it go 1, 2, 3. When you know that you the best out, chest out. I'm saying I got now, forget the rest now. I rap with the soul of Frankie Beverly, amazed on these graceful beats, forever heavenly. They'll never be, none after me, unless we talking let us see. But get on high notes like I'm lettucey. It's the real dreamer and artist formerly known as.
Bro, you were appointed before your time. You had to go through the development. God says, okay, you're going to call yourself Relentless Conversations. I got to make you relentless. So you have the authority to have a name like that. Yeah. The authority to talk on those subjects that's going to attract thousands and thousands of people to come listen to this podcast. And you're going to honor me while you're doing it, man. All of that stuff you got to have the blessing of creating the podcast those first 4 years.
Yeah.
But now let's see what happens in the next 4 years.
Yeah. Man, and the number 4, and I could be wrong, but the number 4 represents the world, the 4 corners of the earth.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, man. And I believe that God is about to do some great things, and it started with me, man. It started with me surrendering, and I want to say I truly thank God for the people that are around me.
Yeah.
And I want to call them my Nylas. Man, what are you talking about? Man, I had a Disney weekend this past weekend.
Okay.
I watched Lion King, and then I watched Aladdin. And I actually felt led to watch them at that. And I was like, God, what is the revelation behind it? What is and I'm not for certain, and I could be wrong, but Nyla knew and believed in who he was from the beginning. She saw who he was. She saw the king in him. Whereas Timon and Pumbaa?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they didn't doubt him, but when they found out that he was supposed to be king, they didn't believe it until they saw it. Man, what side of the story will you be on? Will you be a Nyla, or will you be a Timon and Pumbaa?
Wow.
And
funny. Can I real fast?
Go ahead.
Because Nyla, she gets to be side by side, while Timon and Pumbaa, they get to watch.
Yeah.
Right? They get to be the friends from a distance.
Yeah.
Nyla, she gets to reside in the kingdom with you.
Man, and that goes to show everybody can't be at your table.
Mm-hmm.
Because and sometimes it'll begin to show if you pay attention. But the thing is, and I tell anybody that you may see some stuff, but you got to have a maturity level in knowing and understanding how to deal with certain situations. Bro, I see a lot of different stuff, man, because I pay attention to stuff, and my discernment is top notch. But I've disciplined myself not to say nothing. I may see it, I may talk to God about it, but how I deal with it, I'm still going to treat you the same.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll see people for how they is, and then they go to social media and want to blast them or make this subliminal message. Nah, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not about to do that, because I stand on business and I come from the street. So anything that I'm gonna say to you, I'm gonna say it to your face anyway.
Yeah.
But now I'm realizing, it ain't worth it.
Yeah.
It ain't worth it. It's too much energy being spent trying to do that. That time that I'm trying to confront you about something or say something could be used doing something else.
That's right, man. Yeah. And once again, bro, that's a reflection of your character and integrity right there. Saying, you know what, or what Darius Daniels says, it's the difference between meekness and weakness.
Yeah.
Your weakness will say, oh, I can't help it. I gotta say this. I can't help it, man. I've got to get my revenge. I can't help it, man. I gotta get back at them. Meekness says, oh, I could ruin you. I could say some things, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
When I do what I'm getting ready to do in you, you can't respond in ways that you used to respond. So I got to deliver you from the need to show people who need to be handled that you can handle them. I've got to move you out of madness into meekness. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is not the absence of power. Meekness is power under control. You meek when you're able to look at them and say, I could, but I won't.
And I'll say this, man, even in certain areas, God still had to develop me. Even recently, on my job, man, it seemed like we just kept bumping heads. And I had a meeting with somebody else, and it triggered me to go talk to them. And me and that person, we had a heart to heart. And bruh, I kid you not, I could feel God's presence so much in the room. And we weren't even really talking about God. We were just talking about us, getting to understand each other. Because I'm a firm believer of a person operates the way they operate for a reason. And it could be through something that happened growing up or just experiences. All together, it's just life experiences to why we act and react the way we do. Yeah. And you have to get to that place of understanding that and seeing that instead of canceling somebody out.
Right.
We don't understand the trauma that a person has went through before the person that we see before us now. That's one of my key questions that I ask somebody. Who were you before the person we see today? Because right now I see you as this polished person. And yeah, I love that part of you, but let's talk about the journey. Because people need to understand the journey, and then they get inspiration. We overcome by the word of our testimony. Mm-hmm. They get inspiration. They get encouragement because now, okay, I seen this person come through this. Okay, so I can relate to this. Okay, so if they overcame it, if they went through it and came to the other side of it, to this person that I see now, that's encouragement for me. And we miss that part of it.
Yeah.
We see Go ahead.
Man, that's just really good. What you're saying is, just seeing people. Because what I always tell people whenever I'm talking on, leadership and stuff like that is don't see people where they're at. See it for where they could go or who they could become, right? And what you've done is you've done the inverse. Man, look at what all they came from. Like, why are we placing so much judgment on this person when, like, if you knew all of the stuff that they went through, no wonder they're acting out like this.
Yeah.
So, once again, it comes to this place where you knowing that and you being able to see that takes some real strong discernment from the Holy Spirit, by the way, to be able to like look at somebody and say, in a moment, man, I can see the garbage they went through. No wonder they're acting like this.
Yeah.
That insight, and still being able to say, you know what? I can see the jump. I could start using. Oh, I've seen. I know what you went through. You couldn't even handle this. You can't. We could use that in so many different evil ways to manipulate and hurt somebody. But instead, we feel empathy. We feel connected to them, and we respond in that in love. And we say,
Yeah.
"Hey, look, man. Like, look, we both been through a lot. You know,
Yeah.
hey, we both got a lot on our plates right now. And man, that changes the situation. It changes the dynamic, and it creates a friend. Like the
Yeah.
word of God says, it says, if at all possible, be at peace with all men. You know, if at all possible, right? And so we should find every opportunity we can to be at peace with people, especially in this conversation or this situation that you're talking about. So, man, the way you handle that's awesome.
Yeah. And man, it takes being sensitive and keen to the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for that, man, it's no telling where I would be. But I don't take for granted. I don't take it lightly serving God or worshiping God. That's why I didn't want to do ministry, because I knew my approach on it. It to me is not something to just do for fun.
Right.
In my younger days, I experienced where most ministers was like that or still are, where we lusted for the platform. And I see that so much even now. People lust for the platform and not take the assignment seriously. Like, I remember when I was in the marching band, man, I used to love getting ready to get to my drum. If I didn't want to do nothing else, I wanted to get to that drum. But the band director that we had taught us discipline. So we was I don't care what nobody say, we was the baddest band in the land, Southwest Macon, Georgia, represent. But under the tutelage of Mr. Jackson, man, a man that I highly respect. That is where I learned the discipline that I have. The mindset I have, the leadership that I have. Yeah, I went astray. I may have done, the stuff that I did, but I still had that discipline. I still had that leadership capabilities.
Yes.
And that was developed under him. So and going back to that, I don't take anything dealing with God, I don't take it lightly. I don't take his people lightly. We tend to fight or argue sometimes. Yeah, we're not gonna always be seeing eye to eye. It's not gonna always be perfect. But at the end of the day, we still have to come back to a right place, to a place of agreement, a place of understanding each other. And not only, because most of the time when you're arguing, all you're doing is each person wants to be heard. That's in friendships, that's in marriages, work relationships, everything. Everybody wants to be heard, but nobody's taking the time to stop, pause for a minute, and let's go back to our corners. We got to go back to our corners for a second. And then come back to the center of the ring. And instead of fighting, we touch gloves and we take the gloves off. Well, not even touch gloves. We take the gloves off as an act of surrender. And then we decide to want to hear each other. Can you imagine if we start taking off the gloves and pause and stopped and decided to really listen to each other, to understand each other, to put the differences aside, to put what I think of this person aside? Because sometimes what you think about a person is actually false.
Yeah.
And if you take the time to listen to the person, if you take the time to talk to the person, then you will understand the person, and then you will probably realize that, man, what I was thinking was really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can't tell you how many times I perceived something that my wife was saying that was actually incorrect. Or even at work, man. Me and Brian, he used to be the person that could always push my buttons. But we've come to a place now understanding and seeing eye to eye and it's crazy. It's funny sometimes to see us actually working together to solve a problem.
Wow.
But that's because we took the gloves off, and it got heated one year, man. Matter of fact, 2020. Me and him was about to have it out, man. I'm talking about fists and all. And it was funny because one coworker stayed in the closet, in the storage closet. The other one stayed up the hallway. They didn't want no parts of it. But now, I would advocate for him. And he'll do the same thing for me because we took the gloves off and took the time to understand each other.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you turn enemies into friends, man. And you're speaking with a lot of wisdom, man. And most people, they want to let their pride stay up and say, no, they did me wrong, or man, why do I have to get along with him? We just don't vibe, whatever it is. But man, what you have done is you didn't just make, it's funny how this works, because you even see this in like the lame, coming of age movies where the bully's picking on the kid, and then the kid stands up to the bully and like pushes him back, and then the bully backs down, and then some other kid tries to beat up the kid, and the bully comes and starts defending you know what I mean? It's now it's like we're on the same team. And that's exactly what happens, man. It's we forget that simplistic wisdom that is kind of found in kids movies and stuff, man. It's real, and it still works today in our adult lives. So.
Right. It's crazy to see those kid movies that we grew up off of, just how profound they are. Yeah. Man, I was watching Aladdin. Aladdin spoke so much to me. Here he is a street kid, homeless, but he found his way into the palace. Matter of fact, the princess came to him. The kingdom came to him.
Wow.
And he had a glimpse. Man, sometimes God will, God, I thank you. Sometimes God will put things before you just so you can get a glimpse of what is possible. The kingdom came to him so that he could see what was possible. Now, Think about it. The kingdom was the most heavenly guarded place. What was his monkey's name?
Man.
I can't think of it right.
Right?
Yeah, that was it. He took the princess's bracelet after he was trying to give it back to her, but she had to rush off and go. He took the risk of trying to get into the most heavenly guarded place just to give her back that bracelet. Sometimes you got to go through the fire and through everything that you have to go through just to touch the hem of God's garment. Can you imagine what the woman of the issue of blood had to go through? She's already in pain. But she's going through the crowd. She's having to push through the crowd. And you have to push through the noise and touch the hem of his garment. And not only touch the hem of his garment, when you touch the hem of his garment, there comes that healing. There comes that revelation of who you are.
Yeah.
And where your place in history will be. That's what happens when we connect with Jesus. We find our place in history. What will be history, so to speak.
Right. We're writing it, right? It's his story, history, his story.
I love it. And when you look at Aladdin, I was like, man, he made his way into the palace, but then he still had that identity crisis. And it was like, I'm here now, and then I have this genie make me this. But then there was some character stuff that he had to go through. Man, now I got to fix your heart. I got to fix your character. You got this genie who you think is doing everything that you want to do. But at the end of the day, there's another thing operating. There's someone else operating that's really doing work in you to fix your character, to make you the person that you need to be, to stand in the palace, to stand in the kingdom, to stand as a representative of the kingdom. And sometimes we forget about that, and we don't want to go through those hard seasons because they seem hard, because they seem difficult. But what they're really doing is taking us through the valleys and taking us through these places. And then you're wondering, well, God, how come it seems like this person is getting blessed before me, God? I don't understand. How come this is happening? And God, this just doesn't seem fair. No, I had to take you through some avenues. I had to take you through some lows. I had to take you through some valleys, because what I had to do for the place that I'm taking you to, that's going to impact the world, Joseph. That's why you had to be thrown into the pit. That's why you had to be falsely accused, because what I'm doing, I'm fixing your heart now. So when your family comes to need you, you're not bitter towards them, because now you have a pure heart. I have dealt with your heart. You no longer have a stony heart. I have prepared you, because now you know how to deal with your family, because now they have these different issues that they're dealing with. But it's my love, son. It's my power that I'm going to use through you that's going to heal them. But see, the first thing I had to do was fix your character. The first thing I had to do, I had to take you through these different places. That's why you had to go to these different places, Joseph, so that I can not only put you in this place, but because I knew what was coming. Because he's the Alpha and the Omega. He knows the beginning. He knows what's coming in the end. So he had to prepare you. Sometimes we think about that Jesus had to prepare a place for us, but sometimes we're that place. We don't think about us being the place because we're the kingdom. The kingdom is at hand. So I have to prepare a place. I have to prepare you. We get caught up in thinking about a physical place that God is preparing, that we're not thinking about this place.
That is so good, bro.
Man, come on. Joseph became the place that God prepared for his family. And when God prepared that place, man, when God prepares that place, it's unrecognizable. They couldn't even recognize who Joseph was, though Joseph recognized who they were. Oh, I remember you threw me in the pit. I know exactly who you are, but I'm not going to let my bitterness, I'm not going to let this anger that I have, or these things that I know that you've done, I'm not going to hold that against you, but yet I'm going to bless you.
Man. And let's bring it back to Aladdin real quick. At the end of the movie, he loses everything, right? He compromises that last wish. It's him. He's back to being the street boy, and he's like, hey, this is actually me. He humbled himself. Yeah. And then what happened? He got the crown placed right back on his head. When we humble ourselves, when we go through this struggle and this difficulty, and we present ourselves before God and say, look at me. Yeah. I'm nothing. Nothing. I'm nothing without you. He places a crown on our head and he calls us a king. Yeah. When he gets us to that place, it's not a place where we feel like, because what happens is getting to that place is crushing. It literally almost kills us. Man. To where we say, look, God, I'm done wrestling. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I've reached my max. You know what I mean? I've reached all I can do. And he says, stand up, king. Let me put this crown on your head. Yeah. And that's when you're reborn. That's when you step into that new role. That's when you actually have the authority over the new kingdom that he's taken you to. That's the story we get to live, bro.
Yeah. Man.
Can we you got something?
Go ahead.
Man, I was going to say real quick, is it okay if we get back to the podcast? Because I got another question for you.
Let's go.
Man, I got to know what were some of your biggest insights or your takeaways from this season? And I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit in what we've been talking about, but man, if you could even hit us back with some specific people, some specific episodes where, man, they said this and it just changed something for you, or you were like, man, that's a hallmark moment for me right there?
I'm gonna hit this one because it's the most current that I can remember. Was following God's lead. It is very rare that people at work knew that I had a podcast, that I was a speaker. Man, it was this year. I've been working at my job now for 10 years to be exact. And it's people just now learning that I'm a speaker, that I'm an author.
Wow.
And Desiree, we had this diversity day, the diverse day, the equity and inclusion day. And I had to speak in the exact same, in one of the breakout rooms. And for the next set of breakout sessions, Desiree was going to be in that same room. I was actually going to go to another one, but I felt led to be in there. And by the time she was finished, I felt led to ask her if she wanted to be on my podcast. I've had Mayweather on my podcast, who I used to work with. Dr. Emmanuel. Matter of fact, he's the intro for my my podcast. I had those, but it wasn't like, oh, did you know that Kenny, he has a podcast and all this kind of stuff. I wasn't outward about that. But it's like now I put myself in a position where I'm not even ashamed about it. I'm talking about it. And so having her on, and I don't think I probably would have never asked her. But it was being led by God. And even for next season, the people that I'm going to ask is being led by God.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was the key thing. If I would say anything, aside from anything that people may have said, was just following God's lead.
Yeah. Yeah. Let it be spirit led. That's really, do you have a favorite episode?
I'm not going to say that.
I won't get my feelings hurt, bro. Go ahead. All right. Well, how about this? Let's talk about, you're talking about next season. Let's talk about your plans for next season. What do you have in store for us? Like, what are some of the things that are going to be coming down the pipeline? Like, what can we expect?
Bro, I got some heavy hitters next season. I got some people that I haven't even yet to ask yet. But as of late, I've been watching them, and they've been impacting me. Of course, you're going to be back on next season.
Yes,
I'm gonna. I have those now that they're like a regular. It's just like a TV show. They're the regulars. So I have my few that are regulars, but God has transitioned me this season. I talked about that week that I took off, and it was like that moment that I surrendered. It's like purpose just came, and it's like everything, the heavens just opened up, and I was just flooded with stuff. Man, I have a board on my wall in the bedroom that I'm writing on. I was just writing on it last night, of branching out of the Relentless Motivational Group, from Relentless Conversations to Relentless Wear to my books, even K Noel as a brand. It's branching out so much. And the thing that God had showed me was and I always known this, but I'm a leader of leaders. But it was like, and people see that, but it was like I wasn't seeing it in myself. Let me say it this way. I saw it, but I didn't believe it. And it's one thing, kind of like Aladdin. He saw that he was meant for royalty, but sometimes he had his insecurities or his trauma that he faced spoke louder. Yeah. And I had to silence the noise all around me, because we have so much noise around us, and sometimes the noise isn't the people. Sometimes the noise is us. The noise is here.
Yeah.
And it speaks so loudly because, especially if you're an overthinker like me, you tend to think about, well, what if this? Well, what if that? And I had to stop and pause and silence the noise. I'm a big basketball fan. So I study how in a basketball game, how they slow the game down. They have to slow the game down to see every different option and avenue.
Right.
That's something that I'm good at. I always see every different option and avenue, and I had to learn to be what I have been for so many other people. You know how I am. We can have a simple conversation, and suddenly I come with all of these ideas. Well, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should go this route. That's the first of all, that's the Holy Spirit. But it's like anybody can't nobody say they hadn't had a conversation with me, and then I start giving you all of these different ideas. But I had to start being that for me.
Yeah.
I had to turn around and look at that. So I'm dealing with leaders. I'm being as that leader of leaders. I'm now building relentless leaders, because leaders, they say it's lonely at the top, and leaders go through stuff that they don't talk about. Leaders experience pains that they don't talk about. And I'm not just talking about in the church. I'm talking about those that own businesses, those who are even leaders on their jobs. They experience stuff that they don't talk about. So in this next season, I really want to be intentional about pouring into leaders. And even in the midst of it, there will be some people who will even just get blessed just by, of course, but I'm really being intentional about pouring into leaders. I hit my 100th episode next season. I'm really excited about that. I got caught slipping because I hit 75 and I didn't celebrate it like I wanted to. But the 100th episode, that's going to be fire. I'm looking.
Somebody big.
Huh?
That's got to be somebody big.
I hadn't decided who I want to use yet, man, because I had access to so many different people.
Yeah.
And I hadn't decided who I want to use for the 100th episode, or I may use like the big person for like the 99th episode, and then do like a panel, a whole panel from different people from each season of my podcast, because it'll be 4 seasons, so I can have like 4 different guests leading up to the 100th episode.
So who is your dream guest? If you could have anybody on the show, who would it be?
Coming up next on Relentless Conversations. I don't know what's the congratulations for yet, but I feel it. And I'm so close to it as of right now. God told me to come from behind there, come from behind the scenes, because I was hiding out, bruh. I was hiding behind the scenes, and a lot of people tend to do that.
Hey, aren't you glad? I'm bringing it back. My chains in the past. Got my confidence back. I ain't living in land. That ain't living like that. Hey, aren't you glad?